We're talking with the American Land Council, the co-founder and the current CEO, and we're talking about how our federal lands have been mismanaged. Now, I want to make it clear, no one here is talking about privatizing and selling off these lands. We're talking about maintaining beautiful public lands for the benefit of the public. And we've got these states that are overwhelmingly controlled by the federal government, and they're mismanaging them. So here's an example. Jennifer, you showed me a photo. Okay, we'll bring that up. Tell us about what we see in this picture.
Well, you have a forest. It's not too far outside of the capital city of Helena, Montana. And there's a property line that divides the ownership right down the center of this picture. And you can see on the left side, the forest is mostly dead, diseased, dying timber. And on the right side, you see a more healthy forest. The difference is not climate change. The difference is management. The left side is owned and controlled by the federal government. It's been neglected, and it's become an extremely high fire risk. It's a huge it's a huge liability, both economically and environmentally. And in contrast, you see the locally controlled side of that picture. And because it's a healthy working forest that's been periodically logged, it's had timber managed on it, it's healthier, it's more resilient to wildfire, and it's actually an asset, both economically and environmentally.
So Ken, why would Utah be better at managing these lands than the federal government?
Yeah, Kevin, we don't have enough time to go into that, but it's very simple, right? What Jennifer was talking about is not an isolated incident. You can find that line and forests with that line all over the western United States. If we simply manage the forest properly, then instead of having 300 gallons a day sucking up into trees just to burn, you'd have watersheds. We could fill, we could fill the Great Salt Lake every 5 years just from the water that would run off from a properly managed forest. The animals that are killed, there are millions of animals that are killed in every fire that burns. They estimate 20 to 30 animals per acre burned alive, and then the habitat for endangered species are burned alive. This is one of the greatest preventable environmental crises in our nation, and it just simply involves proper management instead of the federal management where they manage the forest for maximum combustion.
Well, given all this, why is it that conservatives are taking the pro-environment position and not environmentalists?
Well, for my area, it's mostly the people that live out in the rural areas are seeing what's actually going on. And the people that live in the rural areas tend to be more conservative. There are liberals out here, but mostly it's conservative people, and they see what's going on, and they see the nonsense of allowing these fires to rage out of control and threaten our communities instead of managing the vegetation and putting them out. When you really look at what's going on with the environmental movement in this country, if you would follow the money and see where it's going and where it's having an impact or not having an impact, I think you'll find some pretty astounding answers. And the money that's going into the environmental movement is not protecting our environment in a meaningful way. It's being used for political purposes. I think it's being used for economic warfare in a large regard. I think that there's foreign interests that are fueling and funding the environmental movement in our country to stop good production for our country, things that are good for our environment and our economy and our communities.